Good morning, everyone. Once again, this is Blackforexgroup coming to you with another pre-market analysis video. This morning, we're going to be looking at the USDCAD, okay? But before we get started to break down this Forex pair, we have to say that this video is for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice, but we all know why you're here to find good, credible Forex content to help improve one's ability as a trader and especially try to help put a little bit of money in your pocket especially in these troubling times with inflation going on. Okay. So now with that being said, let's go ahead and break down this currency pair. Okay. Now you know about Forex. What we like to do is before we get to talk about the technical analysis, we like to talk about the currencies themselves and what's going on with each of them fundamentally. Okay. Now before we get started, let us talk about the USD. Excuse me, the CAD, the Canadian dollar. All right, so the Canadian dollar, even though it's had some very good news comes out about its economic fundamentals all throughout the latter part of last trading week, oil has been on that has not been so good. Oil news been coming out with a lot of extra barrels going into circulation. This is due to try to combat the worldwide oil shortage due to the Russian sanctions on energy and oil. Okay, so there is a direct correlation between the Canadian dollar and oil. So if we have to pay attention to see how oil is doing, and being that oil is not doing too well, that means the Canadian dollar is inherently weak because believe it or not, Canada is a major oil producing nation. Okay, so when oil prices go down, it tends to affect the Canadian dollar and in a negative way. When oil prices go up, it tends to positively affect the Canadian dollar. It's a little bit more to it than that, but that's just a basic overall junction of it. Okay. So now let's talk about the USD. The USD, we did have some very important news of the USD come out in the midpoint of last trading week, which was the interest rate. We see that the interest rate was increased from 25% to 50%. And this was due to try to combat inflation that's been hovering over the American economy for some time. Okay. So we're going to have to see how this increase in the interest rate is going to actually either cause the USD to become stronger or will the USD continue to maintain its inherited weakness from the inflation because one of two factors. Either the increase in interest rate is not combating the inflation enough or the increase in interest rate is just not enough to excuse me, let me restate that. It's going to be from one or two factors. Either the interest rate is not combating the inflation fast enough, or the interest rate is not enough to combat the inflation, and we need more economic policies in place to combat the inflation. So, one is going to be about actual speed. Is it actually doing it at a fast enough pace? And the second factor is going to be, is it enough to actually combat the inflation? So we're going to have to wait to see how that plays out. But for the initial part of this trading week, what we probably will see some strength in the USD until we have more economic news come out in the mid and latter part of this week. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and break down what's been going on the charts. So, as we can see, since about the end of January, we've been consolidating between these two price points. And then, like I said in previous videos, that we started to make a new upper extreme. Okay. And we still maintained a consolidation area even with our new upper extreme. Okay. And then, due to the good news that we had about the CAD coming out at the mid to latter part of last week's trading week, we did have a break in our range aggressively towards the downside. Okay. Now, what we may see is um, what we may see due to the CAD having a direct effect of what's going on with oil and the USD showing some initial strength due to what they believe the increase in interest rate is going to do for inflation. We may start to see price head towards the long position, but if we do, we'll probably get to probably this area here or as high as here before we definitely start to see some price turnover back towards the downside. Okay. So basically, if we do start going towards the long position, this would be more so retracement than a fundamental shift. Okay, because we actually dealing with CAD being strong, but that strength is going to be dictated by the oil. And the thing about the oil is that the stuff that's happening to try to increase oil circulation around the world is just like almost trying to put band-aids on it. So if the prices of oil start to skyrocket again, then that means CAD is going to get very, very, very strong, like Popeye on spinach. I'm an '80s baby, so if you gotta look up the Popeye on spinach, but everybody should know what I'm talking about. Okay, so you'll get some Popeye on spinach with that, and it was probably started to get strong for some time before it started to go back into the fundamental downtrend. Okay, so we may get as high as this area here, or may get as high as this area here, or may get as high as this area here before we tend to start going back down. Okay, so if you want to wait for the fundamentals to actually kick in and break it back down, you can. But if you can't wait, you just, you gotta place your trades. I understand that. You want to make your money. I totally understand that. Then you'll be looking for initially at the beginning part of this trading week a long position with this, in which once it starts to get to this area here, here, or here, you want to start paying attention to how the candles are coming in because it's a very good possibility once it gets to one of these three areas, price is going to turn over. Okay. And then also you have to watch out for the fundamental news that's going to be coming out with the USD, the CAD, and the oil for throughout this week to make sure that you're on top of it so you can understand what's actually being done on the charts. Okay. Hope that information was helpful for you guys. Happy trading.